Hello and welcome to the Changed Podcast. I'm Brent Stone and I have my special guest today, Jen Guidry, with me. And this is going to bless you all so much. Jen has been introduced to me over the last couple of weeks through some mutual connections, and we've gotten a chance to become friends. And what she's going to share with you today about her encounter with Jesus is going to blow you away. So with that, Jen, I would love it if you just take it away and answer, the main question, which is the encounter that changed your life, the encounter with Jesus that changed your life, but then also any kind of background leading into that. We would love to hear. So I'll turn it over to you. Thank you so much for
That's a
being
lot of
here.
pressure. You know, I, I've been blessed to have many different encounters with God. But and I thought long and hard about which story to share today, and the one that kept on coming back to me um, is something that tragic that happened to me. But obviously, in the end, God worked everything out. So I was like, how am I going to deliver this? So I'm just going to tell you a story. Um, and it all starts with me being an avid hiker. I have hiked all over the world. And back in 2017, 16, I had won a trip from work to Costa Rica. And I unfortunately, back then, was separated from my husband. And so I had brought one of my girlfriends with me on this trip, and she was also a fellow hiker. And we had this beautiful hike planned where we walk 10 miles out and back all throughout the jungle and to a waterfall at the end. All right, so it's 10 total miles. We're like, no problem. Hired a guide for the day. And this guy picks us up and we drive out into the middle of literally like nowhere. I mean, we were about an hour south of Nicaragua. 2 out of the 3 hours of the drive was on these big bumpy roads. But we finally get there and we're like, we're going for it. And when we finally parked the vehicle, the guide gets out and he's like, all right, let's go. And we're heading. And I've always been a very, very fast hiker. I like to get there and go. And what I noticed when we started hiking was that the animal life was acting really strange, like really strange. And we were almost like Katniss. I mean, we were just like birds all around us. And like at one time there were like not horseflies, but the dragonflies were all around us. We're like, oh, we're in nature and we're hiking and we're having a great time. And then we started feeling tremors, which was interesting. And I lived in California, so I was used to feeling, earthquake activity in the past, little tremors here and there. But we started feeling like they were a little more than just tremors. They were like, and so we'd, be hiking, and all of a sudden you hear the noise first, and then you start, to feel the ground shake. So we get down, we're 5 miles in, we're almost to the waterfall. We get to the waterfall, and while we're there was an earthquake. Like I'm talking like an earthquake. Ended up, I didn't know at the time, but it was a 6.7 magnitude earthquake. And we were about an hour away from the epicenter. So, we're there, we're heading back, and all of a sudden you hear raw, 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 and you can see the trees going like this, and the ground's moving. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? And that, I mean, and again, like the wildlife, I mean, they sensed it. It was incredible how they could sense it. So it finally stopped shaking, and we're just like, holy cow, like what is happening here? Like this, is the earth gonna, what's gonna happen?
Right.
So we start kind of booking it back, to the vehicle because it was a good, I mean, we had to go through all this terrain, to get back. And so I was hiking really quickly. My friend Danny, she was right behind me. And then the guide was probably 50 to 75 yards behind us. And we just wanted to go. Now, the path was very thin, very thin. And it was like trees all around, and it was all rocks and roots. So just picture a very uneven path. And, we get about a mile in. So we're about 6 miles out of the 10. And you can see sunshine coming through the trees and these things buzzing around. So I thought they were horseflies. Thought. So I start walking through, and Danny's right behind me, guides way back. And guess what? They were not horseflies. So during the earthquake, a Costa Rican wasp's nest had fallen, basically, and the whole swarm was in the middle of the path. And we were the only ones on the hiking trail. So I walk through the path, and I started getting attacked. So I'm flailing, and I got wasps head to toe all over me. They start attacking Danny. And so the guy sees, what's going on. He's like, run, run as fast as we can. As I'm looking down, now, mind you, I don't know if you can see, I have a couple scars on my neck. So I had neck surgery that wasn't completely fused, maybe 6 or 7 months before that. But, I was invincible. So I decided to go hiking anyway. Probably one of the dumber things I've done. However, so I'm running as fast as I can. I'm trying to get these things off of me, and they're just stinging me all over the place and stinging Danny. And as I'm running, I'm like, oh no, this is not good, because I can see my ankles doing that. So I fell. And when I fell, your adrenaline's going. Danny's right behind me, and we're punching things off of each other. They were all over my backpack, everywhere. So we finally, they stopped stinging. And I looked down, and I could tell I hurt myself pretty bad. And I'm like, Danny, I said, I at the very least, I've torn probably every single ligament and tendon in my legs, but I don't know how I'm going to be able to walk back. And we were 4 miles from the car. And, once I started, again, your adrenaline's going, but once I started kind of getting back into just regulating my breathing, I tied my boots as tight as I could. And the guide finally catches up to us, like what seemed like an eternity later. And we're like, do you have an EpiPen? No. I'm like, well, what if we were allergic? Like, what kind of guide are you? I'm like, do you have a satellite phone? No. I'm like, you don't have a satellite phone? I said, we're in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, how am I going to walk back to the car? And so I had to walk back 4 miles, with which I didn't know at the time, but I had 2 broken ankles. So finally get back. And, I made the mistake. We finally, they had to lift me into the car, because by the time I actually got into the car, it was like my adrenaline had worn off. I was in a ton of pain. And as soon as I took my boots off,
I can't imagine.
Oh no, it gets worse.
Oh no.
So we dumped all the like the drinks out of the cooler, and then we're just icing my legs. And I was sitting in the back seat. I had my legs in between, like on the center console. And I'm like, where's the nearest hospital? Right? Because again, at this time, I didn't know I broke my ankles. I said, I need something for pain. So we finally get to like the clinic, and because it was a San Rincon National Park. So we get in the clinic, and the clinic was literally an ambulance, the back of an ambulance stuck into dirt. And so there's a picture of me where they got the guide and some other guy, they had to carry me because I couldn't walk, into the back of this clinic. And then they're like, well, you got to give me $100 for a shot. I'm like, $100 for a shot, and we only accept cash. So long story short, that was his tip money. He never got a tip because he was a horrible guide. But yeah, they finally gave me something to just stop the pain. And then we had to drive 2 hours on the bumpy road, which that was awesome. Um, Finally get back, went to the hospital, and again, they wrapped my legs up in ace bandages, and they said you need to go see an orthopedic doctor like the second you get home. So this is on like a Friday. Saturday, I couldn't catch a flight home. Sunday, I finally get home. And I just remember, so I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't wear like anything. I couldn't even put socks on. It was horrible pain. I didn't sleep, nothing. So as you can imagine, by Sunday, I am number one. I just remember crying the whole way home when I'm on the plane, and they felt sorry for me, so they upgraded me to like economy plus, so I could have some room. Couldn't walk. I had to be carried. Didn't have a wheelchair. I mean, nothing. Crutches. It was a mess. So my mom picks me up, and uh, just side note on that, backing up my story, I would never tell them. And again, I've hiked all over the world. I've gone to Africa. I've been all over Europe. Like you name it, I've been there. But I never tell my mom and dad, like, I'm hiking here today. And so my mom, she was like, I texted her before we left. And I'm like, hey, just in case, this is where I'm going to be today. And she's like, why are you telling me that? I'm like, I don't know. I just felt like I should. So she picks me up from the airport. We get home, and my husband had moved out. And not only did he move out, he took all of the furniture with him. So so we get home. I walk in. The only furniture I have in the house is the bed. That's it. And that was like step one of my, or step two of my, like, you got to be kidding me thing. Right? Can you imagine? Like all this stuff happened, and he had no idea. In his
No.
defense, we were going through a rough time, and we got divorced. However, just walking into that, and I'm like, what else could possibly go wrong, right? So had an ortho appointment the next day, get the MRIs, and yeah, I cracked both my ankles. So they put me in casts. So now, this is the things that you have to picture. So in talking a little bit about myself, I was at a point in my life where I had a relationship with God, but I had also become like I was invincible, right? Like I didn't need anybody to take care of me. I didn't need anything. Get out of my way or I'm going to run you over. And that's how I was. I mean, in business, I mean, I was very successful. I had established a name for myself in San Antonio, and I was like in this amazing shape. I'd overcome this, crazy, neck thing. And I was like, right. And I was very independent, didn't need anybody. And all of a sudden, I needed help. And I had never asked for help. I mean,
Yeah.
no one's ever, I mean, that was my nature. So my father flies in because I'm like, I can't drive, can't take care of myself. I can't even take a shower. I mean, how do you take a shower with two broken ankles and casts up to your knees, right? So my father, came to my rescue. And my dad, and I know he won't mind me sharing this part, but we had a very tumultuous relationship. There's a part where I'm like, and we didn't, I don't know, I didn't really like my dad that much, honestly. I mean, we were not very
Sure.
close, but I loved him. Obviously, I still do very much, and I like him now too, which is great. But back then, um, we weren't close. I mean, I never actually spent time with my dad at all, and it was very like I was like, what is this going to be like? And so I went on, I remember Rooms to Go, and I ordered whatever could be delivered the next day for furniture. So I bought a bed and a bedroom set for him. Um, and bought a couch. I mean, I did all these things where I'm just like, just whatever you can deliver tomorrow, like that's what I'm buying. Uh, and so he did, and he put everything together for me. And I will tell you that I was a real jerk. like I was miserable. I was like pity party, a bed bee, and bee, meaning, you know, that. I was really, really mad that all of my independence had been completely taken away from me, and that for the first time, I actually had to rely on someone to actually take care of me. So during my worst evening of, and I treated my dad like crap. I mean, I really did. I was miserable. I was so angry at not being able to do anything. Um, so one night I was watching TV, and my dad came in right before he was going to sleep. And he's like, "All right, is there anything I could do for you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, room." And I was just like, and he tried to like put my feet up for me so I can elevate them. And I was just a jerk. And he's like, "I'm just trying to help you." And I'm like, "I know. And so he left, and I just cried myself to sleep that night. And this is where the real story comes in. Again, try to do it without crying, but it's probably not going to happen. So, um, God has talked to me in several different forms, and I have crazy dreams that I remember every bit of them when He wants me to remember them, like every single detail. And having had those in the past, I obviously recognized this one that I'm about to have tonight. So cried myself to sleep, and I just remember God saying, "Jen, you need to pay attention right now." He goes, "You are too independent." And sorry. And he's like,
It's okay. Take your time.
"You need to feel like what it's like to be dependent on your father and your father." And
Yeah.
he's like, "You got too far away from me." And he's like, "You're not close enough to your dad." He goes, "I did this to bring you back to where you need to be." And he's like, "You need to take this time with your dad. You need to become closer to him and savor the time, build up your relationship, and come back to me also." And so
Yeah.
I woke up, and I'm like, "All right." No, I actually woke up crying. And I called my dad in. I don't even know what time it was in the morning. And I'm like, "I'm so sorry." And apologize for being such a turd. Um, and I said, I really want to take this time. And I told him about my dream. Um, and it's crazy because to this day, I remember every detail of that dream. And and so that time ended up being like like one of the best times of my life. Because I got close to my dad. Sorry.
No,
And,
this is great.
yeah,
No,
no,
take your
and
time.
let him take care of me for. I mean, it was weird because he didn't take care of me when I was a kid. We were never close. He was a different person
Sure.
back then. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, that time went from being just a time of like where I was so mad to a time where I'm like, "This is freaking awesome." Like my dad's
Yeah.
taking care
Like
of me.
really quick.
Yeah, like overnight, like from there to there, and then just getting closer to God in the meantime, and then realizing that man, it's not about being dependent. Like you have to be, or it's not about being independent. It's about being dependent, and that's what happens to us, right? When we start doing really well at things, we're like, I don't need God, right? We put him in our back pocket, and that's what we do. I mean, I think that's a lot of times it's human nature. But what we don't realize is that like God's way bigger than that. And that in order to receive and to live the life that he wants all of us to live is that you have to be dependent upon him. You got to be childlike. And so it was such
Yeah.
like a profound lesson that I still, you know, carry with me. And from that day forward, like my relationship with my dad was completely different. And he stayed and we enjoyed our time. Um, and then I also really reaffirmed my dependence on God, and really started bringing him with me uh, in every aspect of my life and my career. Um, it changed so many different things. And I write about this a lot and I talk about this a lot. It's like you can have success, but you can't have true success unless you give God the glory for it. And when people in business and people used to tell me all the time, like, you're crazy for talking about God so much. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, you're the crazy one for not talking about God. It's like,
Right.
um, but yeah, I mean, and I've had other encounters like that, but like this one was like the one that really changed so many different things for me, not, and personal and my personal life, and my relationship with my dad, you know. Um,
It's so good.
so
You were
that's that.
literally you were the definition of broken
Oh,
physically,
totally.
emotionally,
Yeah.
and God met you in that space and was like, "Daughter, come back." Yeah. I mean, how beautiful is that, you know? I mean, that's
Yeah.
just how good he is to just meet us
Yeah.
where we are and to just use scenarios in our life to bring us back to him
Yeah.
so we can have just a more fulfilling life. And, you know,
Yeah.
how many people does he reach out to that don't respond the way that you did?
A
Right.
lot. I'm sure. Yeah. I could have gone the other
but,
way. It could have gone the other way.
yeah,
I could have been miserable the whole time. But what's funny is like, you know, I never let people take care of me before. I mean, I was always like, get out of my way. I don't need anybody. Um, and just the peace that came from that is like, until you actually experience it, I can't even describe it. But it changed me in so many different ways, and I really did enjoy. I mean, I ended up being in casts for 12 weeks, and then I was in fracture boots for another 12 weeks. It took a while to heal. Um, but
gosh.
some of the best times, that's like it was, I would go to the pool and I'd be like, the girl with the pink casts, and I actually let people take care of me, and I let that time just, I don't know. I mean, it was great. Um, but as soon as those things came off and I was able to start, working towards, I mean, I couldn't even walk. I was like Frankenstein when I first got all the boots off and everything. But I was never that independent again. And I realized like you need God. You have to have God. I mean, there's a difference between religion and relationship, right? And it's all about the relationship. And just stop putting God in your back pocket. Stop just taking him out when you need him, because you need him all the time.
Yeah.
And when you acknowledge that and surrender to it, changes your life.
Yeah.
Changes your
No,
life.
that's so good. Well, okay.
That's my
So
story.
now, and we've talked a little bit. We talked a little bit before we went in to record today. But what I
Mhm.
was going to say is that you've had other experiences, and
Oh yeah.
today I wanted you to be able to also talk a little bit about, since you shared this particular experience, how have you walked out that change since then? Like what are some of the things that you're doing? Because I already know about your background, but our listeners don't, and I think it'd be really cool to share how God shaped your life since then and what you're
Whew.
doing about it.
So it turns out I can write, which is a whole nother. A couple of years ago, I I had a really bad illness. I have a blood clotting disorder, and I've had blood clots in my lungs before, back when I was in my 20s, and survived those. And then back in 2020, I had it really bad, like where I should most definitely not be alive. Um, and it was like, you know, I knew I was going to be okay. There's no reason I'm alive. I mean, the doctor still to this day, I have an appointment next week. And every time I walk in there, he's like, it's the miracle girl because they're like, how are you alive? Um, and so I had this idea because I've had a crazy, beautiful, amazing, crazy life where people are like, how are you so happy? And I'm like, it's God. That's the only reason, because other people would have used the things that have happened to me in my past and as a reason to be a victim. Um, but so I had this idea years, writing all these things down, showing people the lessons that I've learned in my life. Um, but I had gotten too busy to actually write. So I tell people that God cleared my schedule, because he took me out of commission, for about 4 months back in 2020 so I just retired from the mortgage business. And 2020, as a lot of people can remember, was like interest rates were like 2% and people were buying houses without, even looking at them, paying $100,000 over. The busiest time of my career ever, top of my game, just met the man of my dreams, which is my husband now, which is awesome. And got the blood clots again. And this time it was bad. And I had developed incurable disease, which is, I'm cured of it, by the way. Um,
Praise
and I
Jesus.
couldn't, thank God, yeah. Um, I had, I couldn't work for 4 months. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to write that book I've been meaning to write forever. And I did. And I wrote every day, and I put together my first book, which is called The Storm. And I wrote it, I hate to say this, but like, just in case I did die, because I wasn't sure. They said when I was diagnosed with this disease, they said I had 5 to 7 years left, um, and my heart was going to fail. So I kind of wrote it as a legacy piece, but at the same time, it's like, I knew I was going to be okay. Like I wasn't worried about it. I don't even know how to explain that. I just felt at peace with it. Um, so and the book got published very quickly. Won an international book award for the best general religion book back in 2022. Then I wrote another book called Grit and Gratitude. And it's again kind of lessons and stories, but this one I kind of added more business tips for women and Christians in the workplace. But the whole time, I mean, I brought God with me. And he's in everything that we do. I mean, we would pray at work. We would pray over our loan files. We would pray over our customers. We would, uh, I mean, you name it. I mean, God was with me. And nothing was my own doing. All God inspired. And yeah, so I mean, I have a couple books now. I speak. Um, and matter of fact, as soon as we get off of this, uh, podcast, I am calling the women's shelter because it's been on my heart to go and speak to the women there. I started uh, coaching women specifically, um, just to try to get them to like if I can do it, you can do it. I mean, that's my,
Yeah.
the most powerful message right now, but I can't think of anything else other way to put it. Um,
No, it's great.
but yeah, I mean, just bringing God with you. And I try to just show people like a life with God is so much better than without him. And the only way to know what that feels like is to try to have that relationship, you know? And it changes you from the inside
Yeah.
out. It does. I mean, I don't know, I look at myself 30 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm like, I was such a jerk. I really was. And, um, you know, now I like to think that I'm not a jerk. So, but I just want to help people now and just kind of just share. And that's why I wrote the book. That's like, yeah, look at this, and this. If I can overcome cancer, blood clots, abuse, molestation, sexual assault, crazy relationships. I mean, if I could overcome all these things and still have success and like great success, like, let me show you how to do it. You can too.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter like where you've been, doesn't matter how you grew up, doesn't matter what happened to you or if you had no money. I've had nothing. Lived in an apartment with cardboard boxes and sleeping bags and ate ramen noodle soup, and I've also made a ton of money. It's just, but you gotta just bring God with you
Yeah.
and give him the glory.
I think, yeah, this is so awesome. And I think that the biggest takeaway that I'm getting from this is that when people that have this sense of independence due to, God blessing them and using scenarios in their life, I mean, not that they don't show up. I mean, you have to show up and you have to work hard, but God uses things in your life. I'm thinking about, I'm literally reflecting on some of the things in my own life. And I'm like, when I was at a stage in my early 20s where I was like, oh, let me pat myself on the back. I did these really awesome things and all these,
It's all you.
it's like
Yeah.
literally like I got humbled in
Hmm.
various ways doing, based upon the pride that I had and different things. And all of a sudden I realized, it wasn't just me. It was God. And now it's like the more I just give him credit and the more I do depend on him, it's so good. And he just comes in and makes
Yeah.
it so much more fruitful. The
Mhm.
the the reward emotionally is so much more fruitful. Spiritually, I feel this wholeness. And I'm I think that this is really blessing our audience, Jen. Thank you, because
No, you're welcome.
so many people I think battle with this and they don't even know how to articulate it. If that makes sense. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people, especially our generation here, there's a lot of people that are listening to this and they're like, they don't know how to articulate it. And I think you did it phenomenally. And I thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
As we're,
Thanks.
as we're coming to of course, yeah, as we're coming to a close here, is there any other takeaways you would like to leave our listenership that maybe I didn't mention here as I was like kind of going over my main takeaways? Is there anything else that you'd like for people to take away?
I mean,
No
just
is an acceptable
trust.
answer too.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
just trust. Don't that. I'm trying to think of how to best put it.
Yeah. Take your time.
Trust
Synthesize
is
that thought. Yeah.
so important. If you look at the things that you worry about, and then think about how much time you wasted worrying, right? And like everything always works out the way it's supposed to, and it's always better than you think it's going to be. So if someone is going through something right now, like, we'll use my ankles as an example, the broken ankles. Again, that could have gone the other way, but that incident spurred so many other ripples in my life. Not only gave me a great testimony to help other people, but it changed everything. I mean, the way the relationship with my dad, the success and, you know, dependence and independence and, you know, just because you're going through something that's really on the surface looks like it sucks. It doesn't. Like there is a reason for it, but your job is to trust, right? You can't just be like, who knows what's going to happen. You have to trust that it's going to happen. Like something good is going to come out of it. And then you have to be, how your heart has to be open enough to recognize what that good thing is or can be. And it doesn't matter whatever that thing is, something good will come out of it if you let it, right? You have to invite that into your heart first, and be open to those possibilities. That's all I
So
got today.
good.
Thanks.
So good. No, it's so good. Hey, well, everyone listening to this, please like and share this. If you know of anyone that's going to benefit from Jen's message, which I think so many people will. And we just give God the glory here. And we ask you that if you're watching this, please keep walking out your change. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And with that, we'll see you on the next episode.